would like to say that I will try to provide everything whatever needed for learning from the data. So yeah, just focus on the content, whatever content is coming. Try to focus on this, and definitely I would like to give example a lot. So here I am talking about a spline regression. Here, what is happening that our basis function would be a spline type. That means piecewise, not piecewise. It is a polynomial locally polynomial with respect to some node. We have to define some node with respect to that locally polynomial concept, localized polynomial simply we can call it. And here it is something more flexible than what doing polynomial we had already seen. That polynomial is global. If you change at one place, that changes will affect throughout that. So that is the one demerit, that if you perform measurement error at one place, it will carry throughout globally. So that one is a polynomial regression, is a global technique, and spline regression, it deals locally. So that's why it is better than polynomial, we can say that. Definitely if you go for better method, complexity will increase. There is a complexity, but no, there would be no issue. Why? Because I'm giving a generalized theory that's in the similar pattern you can solve this one. And few approach I have already taken. So coming to outline of today's lecture, first I would like to talk about a spline. That means very specific kind of polynomial which is localized polynomial. Simply I would like to say that it is a localized polynomial of some degree we will introduce it. And after that, with this spline polynomial, by taking as a basis, we will define a regression function, a linear function, simply linear model. We will define a linear model with respect to this basis function. So in the very first model one, I had discussed about a lot about basis. So same criteria is coming, that a spline is one candidate of basis representation of any nonlinear structure is provided by this spline. And once we will have very good idea of a spline, I will talk about spline regression. That means what regression I told that. So again, it is a linear model. Univariate, again, I will talk about a univariate linear model. And here the basis is coming from a spline. So that's where a spline word is coming. So all are linear model. I want to go beyond right linear model. It is something more generalized than what we call it polynomial. And after that, I will talk about how to estimate the parameter involved in the process of modeling, introducing a spline structure in this linear model. So we have to do parameter estimation. Why? Because we will have only few sample. We don't have the facility of all the distribution involved there. We don't know that. So that's why we have to perform parameter estimation. If you perform parameter estimation, then we have to talk about the corresponding criterion of those estimator. That means we have to talk about statistical inference for this a special linear model we will talk about. So that's way. So coming to first part of this lecture, that one is talking about a spline. So why we are going for a spline? So I told that here suppose you are having a data like this way, data that few sample you are having. Along x-axis we are taking attribute, along y-axis we are taking that response. So few data we are having, and we do a scatter plot. Simply a scatter plot dot a scatter, you will get a scatter plot. Do a scatter plot. Through a scatter plot, if you come across to see that pattern is something like this, then what will happen? Yeah, easily you can fit with some kind of what is happening, cubic polynomial, because it is going. So cubic polynomial you can fit like this way if you are going for better fit. Otherwise you can go for to fit a linear polynomial, there is no issue. So for cubic polynomial, that means y would be of the type of omega naught, omega 1. It is linear. It is definitely we are fitting with linear model, but it is linearity with respect to parameter. It is not with respect to argument, that x or attribute x. Omega 2 x square, nonity with respect to uh, argument, omega 3 x cube. So this is the one fit of this data what we had given. So we can do this that modeling, linear modeling, with the help of polynomial. This one is what, it is just y response has been expressed as a polynomial in term of attribute. So we are calling it is a polynomial regression. We can do that through polynomial regression. There is no issue. But suppose we are having data which is having very strange pattern. That means simply this one is what a global polynomial, simply we can call it. It is global in nature. Polynomial regression. Or now if you try to take a plot like this way, if we are having a another set of data set, and we do it, is changes like this way. It changes a lot, changes a lot. So if you try to fit it through some cubic or quadratic, it would be very difficult, because you can see there is one concavity here, there is again change in concavity here, then again change in concavity here again, then you do observe different kind of concavity. So it is highly localized. This is, if you try to fit it through what we call it quadratic, so if you try to fit, the approximation is not good. So this is the quadratic polynomial, that with negative what highest coefficient. So negative concavity, what we call it. So this one is not, you can see that it is going away. It is fitting here, very good fitting, but error we are observing very there large error in this area, large error. So if you try to fit with, suppose you are trying to fit with the help of this cubic polynomial, then it will go something like this, uh, then it will come like this. So this pattern again, you can observe that it is again not good fit for these data, not good fit. So once if you are having such kind of localized concavity, then problem will come that you can't go for that polynomial fit. You have to go for something a special localized polynomial fit. So that's where here spline is coming. So I will, that is the limitation of polynomial regression, what we are calling it. So the limitation of polynomial regression forces can be sorted out by dividing the input space into regions, small regions. Okay, input space, that means what we attribute a space, where from where attribute is taking value. Okay, so into small spaces, regions, and we have to fit different polynomial in each region, and that leads to spline. In the last what I told, the region wise, so when you see localized changes in the concavity of the that scatter plot, in the scatter plot overall, so what you do, based on that define the region, various region, and that region will have a center point that we are calling it node, and through node you can introduce a spline polynomial. So here what is happening is a spline polynomial, it is not explicitly, implicitly define neighborhood of local behavior, neighborhoods of local behavior, and describe local dependence of any linear model in output. Local dependence, it is talking about two things. Just remember that a spline polynomial is describing local behavior of the attribute and the local dependence of y over those uh, what we call it neighborhood, over those localized region. Simply we are calling it localized region. So I have taken one plot, even if you need code I will provide it. So yeah, here I did it in Python. So it is very simple to see that first you can call it horizontal axis x-axis, and vertical axis is y-axis. So y is the response, x is the what we call it attribute. Okay, and if you try to collect data from some source, we don't know what is that source, that one is unknown to us, and we did a scatter plot. So if a scatter plot is coming like this, these dotted points are talking about a scatter plot. So if you try to fit it through polynomial, you will fail. You will fail, definitely you will fail. You want to get a suitable polynomial regression which will fit this scattered data. So what you have to do, you have to come up with a spline that localize. You can easily see that keep on increasing node number of point, that localized region, center of the localized region, then definitely your approximation would be much better. So you can see that if you proceed with six node, then that orange line is talking, giving 1 feet up to this scatter plot. But that if you can improve further, increase the number of nodes. If you're taking 50 node, then the green one is giving better fit to the data, and this one is coming with respect to that spline. So overall theory is same, but just we are changing the basis function, that is the. But again when you are changing the basis function, you need to know those structure of basis function, how they are behaving, how they are defining those things. So that's why I will define here first a spline. What are the spline? Definitely it is a localized polynomial. Better call, don't directly call it polynomial. It is a localized polynomial, localized region wise. So localized, call it localized polynomial. and it is providing a better that modeling of data. Now, till now, am I audible? Anyone is having any question till now? No. Okay, fine. I will go forward to discuss further about this spline. These are very simple if you are giving attention, and if you are not giving attention, then definitely you will find difficulty to understand all this. So first we will define a kth order spline. Remember, few things will come here. One, just note down k is coming. K is talking about order of the spline. So just give attention to this k word. Kth order spline, it is a piecewise polynomial of degree k. So kth order of the polynomial is also defining the degree of the polynomial. Degree of the polynomial. Okay, a spline. But it is not a global polynomial, it is a localized one. So that's why kth order we are calling it. And what is the further criteria? One criteria we come across degree. Another criteria is saying that the spline, kth order spline, it is continuous and has a continuous derivative of order up to k minus 1, of order up to k minus 1. That means ck type of function, ck minus 1. That means it is collection of all k minus 1 time continuously differentiable functions. Simply we are calling it notation, we can call it. Okay, and apart from what, this one is the second term. That first is saying that a spline is a kth order polynomial, uh, uh, kth order piecewise polynomial of degree k, and it is continuous and has continuous derivative of order up to k minus 1 at its nodes. Okay, then what are the nodes? How many nodes? So there would be m number of nodes. So we'll generally introduce m number of k nodes. That means nodes, not points. That means m number of node point we will take it. So we are having two parameter, one parameter k, another parameter m. Okay, now mathematically how we can define a spline? So it is a function from r to r. It is a kth order spline with node at t1, t2, t3 up to tn. Okay, tm. Okay, if the function is satisfying the following criteria. First, f is a polynomial of degree k on each of the interval minus infinity to t1, t1 to t2, tm to t infinity. So in each of the interval, the f is what? It is a k degree polynomial in each of the interval. Simply you can easily see that it is in each of the uh, interval, it is a k degree polynomial. If someone is saying that can we visualize a cubic polynomial as a cubic in every interval, if you do that, then it is not possible. Simply cubic polynomial happens like this way. Suppose we draw it, center is origin. So what is happening, that it is coming like this. This is the cubic polynomial x. It is coming like this way. It will go. So if you try to observe here, concavity is up here, concave here in this region, it is going like this way. Then suddenly at this point of inflection, concavity is changing and now it is downward. So when concavity is up in that region, you can say that it is having up concavity. That means it is very much convex in nature. That means quadratic function kind of nature it is having. Again, if you try to see in this region, and then you can observe that it is having what kind of nature? It is having reverse, that concavity is down, that negative quadratic kind of nature it is having. So that simply x cube, it's changing. If you further zoom it out, then it will behave like linear, almost linear kind of a structure. It is quadratic. Then complexity will increase. That in every subinterval, if you try to introduce subinterval, then it is very difficult to make that cubic polynomial cubic in every subinterval. It is very difficult. Overall it is cubic, but in every subinterval if you try to make the polynomial cubic, then it would be very difficult. So definitely that's way it is not having a local pattern, it is having a global nature. But spline is having very interesting nature, is that it is of degree k in every subinterval. One subinterval is minus infinity to t1, another subinterval is t1 to t2, likewise another subinterval is tm to t infinity. So you have to suppose m number of nodes or node points, so you are taking it. So in the inch, so call it t1, this one is t2, Likewise, T3 Tm, and you can go up to infinity. There is no issue. Polynomial, domain of polynomial is always, but it is complete R. Polynomial is always defined for every real number. So that's way. And a spline is localized polynomial. So here in this interval minus infinity to t1, it is this spline is again a polynomial of degree k. Again, if you take this interval t1 to t2, polynomial is again it is a spline is a polynomial of degree 2. Again in this interval a spline is a polynomial of degree k. But if you take a global polynomial x cube, x square, x like those kind of things, that one is having a global overall in the complete domain, that function will have a polynomial nature. But if you try to localize it, then you want to get that same polynomial every localized region, not so. But a spline is having, so a spline is defined in the first in the sense that it is a kth order spline with m number of nodes t1 t2 up to tm, such that f is first assumption is f is a polynomial of degree k on each of the subinterval. This is the interval with the further condition that fj, that means jth derivative of f is continuous at tm up to t1 to tm. Each not point f derivative of f is continuous as well. So up to k minus 1 the derivative is continuous. So that is the criteria. So if some what, tell me, is it a continuous function or not? X into sine 1 by x. Tell me, is it continuous function or not at 0? At 0, this function is x into sine 1 by x is continuous or not? Anyone would like to recall? Are you listening me? Abhishek? Okay, Abhishek, are you listening me? X into sine 1 by x, is it continuous function at 0 or not? Any other who would like to answer? No, doesn't know. It is very simple that what does the definition of continuity says, that find the limit, and if the limiting value of that function at that point is equal to the corresponding functional value, then simply we say that the function is continuous at that point. So definitely if you find the limit of this value at point 0, limit is 0 and functional value at point 0 is also 0. So this function is continuous at x equal to 0. If I talk about derivative of this one, if you try to find derivative of this one, definitely you will fail to prove that derivative of this one is continuous. You fail to prove that. So that there would be issue with derivative of this function at x equal to 0. There would be definitely issue. If you similarly if you take x square, then again it would be first time that derivative first time continuous f1, that means f1 will exist, that means we are calling it continuous. This x square would be continuously differentiable. Second derivative if you find, you will face problem. You will face problem. So that's why problem is coming. If you are very complicated kind of problem is coming, that's why it is very much essential to talk about derivative of continuity of the derivative. So up to here it is taken one condition that this spline is having derivative of up order up to k minus 1, which is continuous. Sometimes if you take a polynomial function, constant function, sine function, trigonometric function, all are very nice function. There will be no issue with the derivative. There will, so you can differentiate anytime. There would be no issue. Sine x, cos x, those would have no issue. But if you are taking very special kind of function, you will face problem regarding derivative, higher order derivative. Definitely you will face. So one assumption for us defining a spline, we are taking this one, that is the f is a polynomial of degree k in each of the subinterval. This is subinterval, and jth order derivative exists where j is vary from 0 to k minus 1. Okay, at the node. Now next what we do, so second assumption you can talk about existence of derivative. First is this one, polynomial nature. Second is existence of derivative. So most natural way to parameterize this set of a spline with node at a given m number point. This we are calling it node as well, knot node. Also we cannot call it node. So we parameterize the spline with m number of node by using truncated power basis function g1 up to m plus k plus 1. M is talking about number of node points, and k is the what, it is the degree or order of the spline. Okay, it is defined as like this way. So up to t1 you are just take polynomial, simple polynomial of order x to the power k up to t1. Once you come across first node point t1, here you are defining a what, this function polynomial we are defining with respect to localized with t1, that first node. So j equal to 1, that means t1 you will get, you have to localize the polynomial with respect to node point. So we are defining it like this, x minus tj. K plus is talking about that it is having a structure like unit kind of a situation, is that that means it is defined like this way. Plus is talking about that in right side of tj, x minus t to the x minus t to the power k, and left side of tj it is just 0. So it would be right side when x is greater than tj, and this function is defined as like this way, x minus tj to the power k when x is greater than tj. Otherwise when tj x is less than equal to tj, then it will take value this 0. Very specific way, just in order to make it localized, defined in that fashion. So that is the definition of this spline. Okay, so we have taken here how many basis functions are coming. mk plus m plus k plus 1 number of basis function are coming. M is I told that it is related, it is talking about count of node point, and k is talking about which order you want to do. You can go for linear spline, you can go for cubic, you can go for quantic, and depends upon that. And here what is happening, that best role is given by when k you are taking odd number, that means you take two you odd number means you take either one or take three or take five or take seven. Those would be better candidate of polynomial spline. Don't take even two or four or six. Okay, now next I will talk about a spline regression. By using the spline as a basis function, we will define a spline regression. So how we define it like this way. So estimate, so again our target is we have to estimate this hypothesis function. We have to estimate. So one estimate we got it through least square approximation. That first order estimation we did it through least square approximation, and from where we are saying that this conditional expectation of y given x, it is one estimate of y. This one is what it is talking about, estimation of y, response variable. So one estimate we got it. Now we try to give a form of this one as a linear form. So one linear form we are giving it by introducing kth order spline with m number of nodes. How will do this? That means this function we are taking a linear structure with respect to a spline. This gj of xi is the I is talking about. So we are having simply m number of what we call it n number of sample point. So xi yj, xi yi yi. So this is your data set. I varies from suppose n number of points you have taken, I will varies from n number of measurement you did, n number of sample you did, then I will vary from 1 to n. So this is your data set. Okay, now with respect to this data set, we try to fit a spline regression. So what we do, so we are taking a spline basis spline as a basis function. That means Gj or for ith sample. This one is for ith sample. This modeling we are doing for ith sample. And for each sample, how many parameter we are introducing? M plus k plus 1 parameter we are introducing. Why? Because we are taking in the spline basis there are m number of m plus k plus 1 number of basis functions. That's why we are taking like that way. So we can give a compact representation of this one as dot product of that parameter omega with g of xi. So g is here what it is again a vector valued function, vector. So component are defined by the each member of the spline, each member. This one is g1, first member of the spline g1 at point is sample xi. This one is gm plus k plus 1 at ith sample xi. So here, so g is simply a vector function. So we did here what compact representation of this modeling, linear model, like this way, and this is the error terms. Okay, we can't leave the error term here. So our intention is we have to estimate here omega. Omega is what? What is the dimension of omega? Omega is dimension of omega is m plus k plus 1. So we have to estimate the omega. So how we can estimate? So the data set is given to us. The data, this is the data set given to us. From here we want to estimate omega. So again we will, what we will do, we will further run all these this model ith sample through all varies from 1 to n number of sample we are having. So we will run for each sample. With respect to that, we will get a linear system, linear equation. We will get linear system. So what we do, so we have to collect all the value of response as a response vector. This one is y1 is coming with respect to first sample, y2 is coming with respect to second sample, yn is coming with respect to nth sample. Okay, likewise in the data matrix, g1 is talking about the first column. That means here it is coming with respect to first basis of the spline, first spline basis, and likewise gm plus k plus 1, it is coming with respect to last basis. This is the last basis of kth order. Okay, last basis it is coming. And where if you try to see that what is the this column is coming with respect to then what are the entries, of the g1? You can, if j equal to 1 you are taking, then just substitute it, run it through all the sample n sample, then you will get first column. This is the first column of our data matrix. Simply it is a data matrix, what I am saying that. So whenever a linear model, there is a benefit is that always you can convert the corresponding linear model into a vector representation like y equal to x times x is your data matrix. So data matrix will change with respect to different basis, whatever basis you are taking. If you don't take any basis, simplest just it is having dependency over the attribute only, then you will get just 2 by n. 2 is talking about that means you are having dependency over only attribute. That one is coming with respect to omega naught, that at what we call it slope or intercept, and another one is coming with respect to attribute, that slope parameter we are calling it. So this is with respect to what we call it this. Okay, this is the corresponding linear equation, linear system what you are got by running all the sample on n number of sample. So this will, if I varies from 1 to 1, then in more what we call it matrix and vector notation, we are getting this can be represented like this way. What is y? Y is the response vector having n number of component. Y1 is talking about first associated with first sample, and here this bold x, it is talking about data matrix. Data matrix first column is coming with respect to this first basis, and last column is coming with respect to last basis. Okay, last spline basis. And this epsilon is the error vector. First component is epsilon 1, second, that means with respect to first sample. Second component would be epsilon 2 with respect to second sample. Likewise epsilon n would be nth component with respect to nth sample. So all these are here vector notation. X is the matrix and the rest of things are vector. So this is the ultimate linear model. So we can express every regression in this form where x is having different structure with respect to different basis, what basis you are taking it. So our intention is that we have to find this omega. So here one sample is given, just n number of sample is given all complete, we don't know the complete distribution, it is very difficult to compute, so we will do estimate. So how you can estimate? So two approach I had already told that one approach that you can, initial class I had told that one approach through linear algebra you can go, linear algebra approach. Another approach is calculus approach. So here calculus approach, that means what we do, we try to minimize the error. Definitely it is talking about one approximation of y, so there would be error, that means error equal to y minus x time omega. So we will try to approximate that, we will minimize that error, a square of that error. In that process we are getting here omega cap. What it is just what we do, so we express the omega cap in term of data matrix time, multiple of data matrix, all these data matrix, pseudo inverse simply we can call it, this pseudo inverse is coming times y. You can simply denote it this by kept bold x star, pseudo inverse, sometimes people are calling it pseudo inverse times y. And how you got it? You got it by finding the minimum of this one, this objective function. It is what, a square of error term, a square of x, y minus x time w, a square of, this one is calculus approach. So if I talk about linear algebra approach, anyone can visualize how easily you can get it, that through linear algebra approach, this same estimate formula without performing any calculus. There linear algebra you don't need to perform, that one is purely geometry. So tell me, here definitely if you're taking from the linear algebra perspective, because y equal to x times omega plus epsilon. So what we say, if you see this linear system from the linear algebra perspective, we say that y is not exactly equal to x time omega. That means it is a, if it is not exactly equal, then simply we say that this one is inconsistent system. So what is meaning of inconsistent? It is equal to plus epsilon, so it is an inconsistent system. If you forget about this epsilon, it is inconsistent system. What does it mean? That means y is not in the column space of the data matrix x. It is not in the column space. Column, we write it like this. Four fundamental subspaces I had already expressed that. What are those column space? It is not in the column space of the data matrix x. Okay, so that's where this system is inconsistent. Simply it is not solvable analytically. Then if it is not in the column space, then how we can solve it? So look in the try to look into the decomposition of y. Y has been decomposed as x plus omega, x into omega plus epsilon. So x into omega, where does it belongs to? X into omega. So simply it is talking about linear combination of the columns of what, the data matrix x. So x into omega, definitely it would be in the column space of x. Sorry, omega is coming here. X into omega, it is in the column space, one linear combination of column of x. So that's why it is in the column space of the data matrix x. So what we call it? We call it this x in times omega is actually projection of the response vector in the column space of data matrix. So this one is the projection part. If this is the projection part, what is error? Error is the perpendicular part, perpendicular part. Simply we call it. So where does error belongs to? So if this one is perpendicular, definitely it will be in the column space of x. Then error would be per part. That means x, if error is perpendicular to this x time omega, that perpendicular nature we had already also proved that. So that perpendicular part is where it is in the left null space. From the fundamental theorem of linear algebra, what does it say? It says that column space of a matrix is perpendicular to null space. It is perpendicular to null space, left null space. Column space is column space of a matrix is perpendicular to left null space. That means null space of A transpose. So that I had already discussed. So that's why this error term, it will belongs to left null space of data matrix. Then that means null space of X transpose. It will belong to. What does it say? It say that if you take any element from here and multiply with X transpose, that will give to 0, and that means if you multiply both sides with X transpose, you will get a normal equation. So that means that theory is giving you normal equation, and solve the normal equation, you will get same thing. That one is pure what we call it linear algebra approach. We are not applying a single bit of what we call it calculus. Pure linear algebra approach, we can get solution of the same linear system. X transpose we are multiplying with both sides, and from here directly you will get this. So this in the both approach you are getting same that estimate of omega. You got the estimate. I discuss about estimate of omega from here. Okay, so there is no same theory you are getting in linear regression, same theory you are getting in polynomial regression, same that regarding estimation of omega, same approach you are getting with respect to spline. That means everywhere same approach, but change. What is the change in the structure of data matrix. So each time if you try to look into the column of data matrix, things are different. It is not same in all cases. Only method is same, the approach is same. So that's way just give much attention towards basis, to basis, a specific basis, and rest of things would be once you are having data matrix, your job is done for that a specific type of linear model. Your next job will just start the common technique to get estimate of the omega. Common technique you would have, just your basis is playing role till data matrix. Afterward things are very simple. So I will talk about further that what are the inference of those estimate. So once we are having estimate of omega, then we talk about further things like definitely if we vary the sample, various sample we take various sample of same size, what we will get estimator of that corresponding parameter. So if you are getting estimator, then estimator is a random variable. So we have to talk about what is the mean or expectation, what is the variance, what are the further properties, efficiency, and other things that we have to call it. So first we have to calculate the estimation error for the parameter with respect to this estimated value. So simply we can easily get estimation error for the parameter by taking the difference of the estimate of omega with omega. And if you try to say, we have already seen the representation of omega least square. Estimate of omega is what? Inverse of X transpose X times X transpose Y. This we had already seen through that least square method. We had already seen. Now and Y is this omega is the actual true value of the parameter that we don't know. We got the estimated. Then if you definitely there would be difference between omega naught and omega cap and omega. That difference we are calling it estimation error, and we express this. It can be expressed in terms of like this way, like this way. And if you take difference, difference would come like this way. That means you multiply this pseudo matrix over the error vector. You multiply y derivation if you want to see, then we know that from the estimated value of omega cap it is equal to this, and here replace y equal to x times omega plus epsilon and simplify it. You will see that omega cap equal to omega plus this pseudo matrix time epsilon, and from here you can deduce that the estimation error would be this is the estimation error. Now again one more thing, if you take expectation both sides, easily you can derive that expectation of the estimator omega cap, it would be equal to omega. You can derive it very simple, that what is the expectation of this error vector. It would be always zero. The derivation we had already discussed. So estimation of this expectation of this estimate omega cap equal to, we know that this one is constant, it will expectation of a constant is the same number, so it would be omega plus 0. So that's the expectation of omega cap equal to omega. That means this omega cap what we got through least square approximation, that one is what unbiased. Next we have to talk about variance. What is the variance? of this estimator. So variance again, so every time for each estimator you have to calculate all those things. So variance in directly what you do while calculating variance, calculate the conditional variance. That one is easy to calculate, conditional variance, because conditioning approach is already given there. So that's why calculate the conditional variance. It is very simple to calculate and simplify it, just coming from the quadratic form of this variance, quadratic form of the variance, and you can just play with that matrix. It is one kind of matrix multiplication. You will see that from here we will see that conditional expectation of estimator with respect to given x, it would be what, sigma square times inverse of x transpose x. So what is sigma square? Sigma square is actually variance of our error vector, error. So generally either we proceed with a given error of the variance of the error, or you can estimate it by s square. From the sample variance we can estimate it through sample variance. Generally in most of the problem, variance of error happens, variance happens to be normal in nature generally. So variance, you know that variance of the error generally might be given to you. Okay, so other thing we will discuss in next class. Anyone is having any question, you can ask. And regarding just attendance, just put your roll number there in comment box.